There I was, alone and with no purpose in my Tarkov life. I'd recently taken to role-playing Rust, but I could not fill the void in my heart. I'd seen many creators online telling me that Tarkov was dead and that I am a cuck soy boy for playing Battlestate's game. Disheartened and lonely, I farmed in a game where you can't even get mats. After many farming trips, geared runs, deaths, I'd found nothing to fill the cavernous maw in my soul. I had money, armor, and the guns to do whatever I wanted, but no purpose, no drive.
Okay.
And then one day, I realized what was missing. I needed a Tarkov eBoy.
Yeah, JD World War. Yeah, ドベリシャンパンや宝石の山いラスコミに魚やソーセージパンクラーこれの良さ全てお目にわからんどのラッパーと比べてもレシかかった冷静の中浴びるセレのシャワー今も天命の中にいる現へ戦う剣山の力量にエゲとハニャ結構数だって俺にとってレジェンドはバーチャンじゃ横文字だらけの人脈のウェイズ母国語で貫くリーサルのウェポン俺が立つ舞台はリラクのゼーションか自殺の名所
Getting the attention of an eBoy wouldn't be easy, especially a Tarkov eBoy. Their souls have been beaten down by the repetition and grind of a brutal Russian FPS. There was only one thing that would get their attention: rubles. But how many would be enough to turn their head? 10, 20, 100 million? After reviewing my finances, I set my sights on 50 million. 50 million was a large enough sum to get them interested, but small enough that I would still be able to play other games and avoid burnout. Over the next few weeks, I'd have to obtain at least 30 million rubles to get to that total of 50 million. For the first raid, I deployed to the woods location. I'd heard tell of increased moonshine spawns and thought it would be a good way to get a quick ruble bump. While the optimal way to make money would be to farm interchange 24/7 for GPUs, I'm not a loser and that sounds boring as fuck. As luck would have it, I spawned near the sunken village, a location with increased food spawns. And by increased food spawns, I mean actually no fucking loot there at all. But a kind scav was there to increase my total XP. To the horizon stood a radio tower. This radio tower typically holds technical parts and other barter items. Unfortunately, a sneaky man had already relieved this point of interest of all loot, and I was forced to move onward to the USAC camp. Though unlooted, I chose to ignore the whole purpose of this series, and I didn't loot any of the technical or ration crates, even though this was the whole goal of going to this map. I only picked up a few scraps and shuffled towards outskirts, picking off a scav and looting along the way. While the raid wasn't a failure, I could have done way more and been just a few rubles closer to affording my own boy. Feeling insecure about how little money I had made in the first raid, I partnered with fellow shorts YouTuber and part-time shitty streamer, Bad at Video. With how little money I'd made at Woods, I felt it only made sense to take control of the resort at the Shoreline location. As Bad and I had all the high-value keys, we were guaranteed a decent profit. So far, the raid had been uncontested, which allowed us to loot almost all of the high-value rooms. Upon entering West 301, I was rewarded with a LEDX, the first high-value item I'd found on my journey to 50 million rubles. I moved to regroup with Bad and made a critical error, assuming someone was a friendly. The confusion had almost cost me my life, but through luck and class 6 armor, I had survived. Our final raid took us to customs, and we were lucky enough to get a spawn at Crack House. Here I'd be able to replenish my medical supplies and possibly find a folder of intelligence. As I looted, I realized I had forgotten a backpack. Another failing on my part. Twice actually in this series now, I have fucked up my own ability to loot. Luckily, while I was leaning out the window to watch Breach, I noticed the player had brought me a Pilgrim to borrow.
Hi, how are you?
After acquiring a backpack and a long-range scope from the player, we moved to Jungle Gym so we could better oversee the map. Well, ideally we would have gotten a dorm spot and hit Marked Room. It was too late in the raid, and likely that Marked had already been hit. We waited for a few minutes at Jungle, and then we moved on to Old Gas. At the last moment, I caught the profile of a player passing us at the other side of the trains. From the long distance, his kit hadn't rendered in, and I pushed with abandon. We'd brought down a juicer who hadn't seen us near trains due to his Alton. After splitting some of the loot with Bad, we called the raid, as we were overweight and traversing the map would be a pain in the ass. Ultimately, the raids had gone pretty well, and my ruble count was looking a little bit closer to 50, but I still had quite a ways to go. Thanks for watching. You can find me on twitch.tv/ShouldaVille, ShouldaVille on Twitter, and ShouldaVille on TikTok. Hope you had a good one, and I'll see you in the next one when I hopefully make a little bit more money and get closer to buying my eBoy.